Right now, a lot of people know they should be stocking up, but they're not doing it. And with prices rising and supply chains still unpredictable, waiting to start is riskier than it used to be, even if you're starting small. You don't need everything. You just need to start with the right things. If you focus on a few key foods, you can build something that actually works, something that actually gives you real security and not just a shelf full of random items. If I had to start over today with a limited budget and build a pantry from scratch, these are the 7 foods I would start with. And there's a couple on this list that most people either skip or don't realize they're missing until it's too late. And if you've been doing this for a while, don't skip this, because there's a couple of things on this list that even experienced preppers tend to miss, and they matter more than people think. Later on, I want to add the cost of all these items up and see where we stand, because it's probably going to cost a lot less than you'd think. Hey, I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Let's get into it. Let's start with the foundation, rice. Here's where people get it wrong. Rice is not the solution, it's the base. It stretches everything else. It gives you calories, it's cheap, it stores for decades if you do it right, and it's incredibly versatile. You can build a lot of different meals around it, but on its own, it's not enough. It doesn't give you everything your body needs. But unfortunately, this is where a lot of people stop. They buy a big bag of rice and maybe a few extra items, and they think they're covered. But what they've really built is incomplete. Rice only works when you build around it. So next on my list is beans. And this is where things start to come together, because when you combine rice and beans, you're not just eating, you're getting a complete protein. And this is one of the most important building blocks in a budget pantry. It's simple, it's proven, and it works. This combination has supported people all over the world for a long time. But even here, most people don't store enough, or they don't actually use what they store. And that does matter, because if you're not used to eating it now, it's going to be a lot harder to rely on it later. This is one of those areas where you want to build familiarity and not just storage. So now you've got a base. You've got something that provides calories and protein. But this is where a lot of pantries start to fall apart. Old timers and hardcore preppers are going to tell you this is all you need, but relying on rice and beans gets old fast. And more importantly, it's still not enough. You need something that's ready, reliable, and actually satisfying, something that you can turn into a real meal without a lot of effort. And for me, this is where canned meat comes in. And this is a big upgrade, because now you've got something that's already cooked, it's already prepared, it's ready to go. There's no prep, there's no waiting, you don't need extra fuel. And in a real situation, that matters more than people think. Whether you get chicken or tuna or even beef, having something that you can just open and eat or quickly add into a meal changes everything. This is where your pantry starts to feel like real food and not just survival rations. And the psychological side of it matters more than people expect. Now, this next one is one that almost nobody talks about enough. It's fat. And this is one of the biggest gaps that I see in most pantries, because people focus on calories, they focus on protein, but they completely overlook fat. And without it, things start to break down. You're going to feel low energy. You'll be hungry all the time. Meals don't feel satisfying. And over time, that wears on you. This is one of those things that you don't really notice right away, but you definitely notice when it's missing. And this is one of the biggest differences between a pantry that looks good on paper and one that actually works in real life. You'll notice a lot of lists skip this, and that's a big mistake, because fat is not optional, it's essential. The tricky part is finding something that's shelf stable. Oils can go rancid quickly, but for me, I would want a dedicated fat source in my pantry. Something simple, something shelf stable, and something that I can actually use. So personally, if I had to choose only one, I'd go with coconut oil. It stores well, it's more stable than a lot of other oils, and it gives you a really efficient source of calories that you can add to just about anything. Now, this next one is just practical. Peanut butter. This is one of those foods that checks a lot of boxes. It gives you fat, it gives you protein, it gives you calories, and you don't have to do anything with it. There's no cooking, there's no prep. You could just eat it straight. And you can also add it to other foods. It works in a whole lot of situations, and especially when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you don't feel like cooking, having something like this really matters. Now, it's also not a forever food. It doesn't last as long as some of the other items on the list, but if you're rotating the way you should be, it's one of the easiest and most reliable things that you can have on hand. Now, you may be thinking, I already have a lot of this stuff in my pantry, and that's great. You may be more prepared than you even realize. This gives you the perfect place to start and build from. Because if you have one jar of peanut butter in your cupboard, pick up another one. Don't wait until your first one is gone. Keep one or two extra on hand. And over time, continue to add in that way with all of these foods. And we'll put a dollar amount on exactly what that would look like here in just a few minutes. If we could keep it around $50, that would be ideal for most budgets. Do you think it can be done? Next up is vegetables, and this is what keeps you from falling apart over time, because you can survive on calories for a while, but if you're not getting nutrients, you're going to feel it. And it doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in slowly. Your energy drops. You feel off. You don't recover as well. And over time, that becomes a real problem. That's why having vegetables in some form matters more than people think. If you know me, you know my go-to tends to be freeze-dried, but if we're trying to do this on a budget, canned veggies would be the next best thing. You can add them to rice, you can add them to beans, soups, whatever you're making, and they're going to help round things out in a way that basic foods just can't do on their own. Look for the most varied and nutrient-dense veggies that you can find to cover the widest range of nutrients. Get a variety of colors. Things like carrots and spinach, for instance, are going to have a lot more nutrients packed into those cans than some of the other options. And even though it may technically be a fruit, take a look at canned pumpkin. That can be stirred into rice, into soups, stews, into chili, lots of foods, and it's going to boost the vitamin and the fiber count. And the last one, this is simple but critical. Salt. Your body needs it. That alone makes it important. But beyond that, it makes everything else usable, because if your food is miserable to eat, that wears on you fast. Morale matters. Taste matters. And salt is one of the simplest ways to improve both. It turns bland food into something that you can actually keep eating day after day. And when you're relying on stored foods, that consistency matters more than people expect. So when you step back and look at this, this isn't about having everything. It's about covering what actually matters, a foundation, real nutrition, energy, practical options, and the things that make it all work together. If you've got that, you're ahead of most people. And from there, you can build, you can expand, you can improve over time. But this gives you a starting point that actually makes sense. And did you catch it? The two most overlooked items, fat and salt. Two things that society has kind of tricked us into thinking are bad for us, but in reality, they're essential. This isn't about having everything. It's not about complicated systems or massive storage. This is about covering what your body actually needs to function with foods that are shelf stable, practical, and realistic for everyday people. And I'm not saying that this is the only way to do it, but if you understand why these 7 made the list, you'll be able to build a pantry that actually works for your situation. All right, let's test this. If I walked into a store right now with $50, could I actually walk out of the store with all of these things? Starting with rice, you can get a 20 to 25 pound bag, and that's going to run you around $15 or less. That alone can give you like 200 servings as a base. Now, keep in mind, these are the serving sizes that are stated on the packaging. And a really hungry person could definitely eat more than the stated serving size, but we're using this as a basis of comparison here. So on to beans. Instead of a full 20-pound bag, you could start a little smaller, get about $10 worth of beans, and you can still get a solid 100 servings to pair with that rice. Canned meats, you don't need a full case to start with. Just grab a few cans for about $6 to $8. Now you've got a real protein to work into your meals. Coconut oil, a jar is going to be around $8 to $12. That could last you a couple of weeks using small amounts at least. Peanut butter, you can grab a couple of jars for about $5 to $8, and that gives you easy calories and protein right away. Vegetables, you don't have to go big here. Just start with about $5 to $10 worth of cans just to begin adding nutrients into your meals. And salt, couple of bucks worth. Salt is dirt cheap and you are set for a long time. If my math is right here, you could take this list, go into the store right now with a $50 bill and have a really decent start. If you don't have the extra $50, split it up further. Do $10, $10 a week, $10 a month even, whatever you can to make it work. Try to make it happen and you're going to make progress. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, drop me a 7 in the comments and tell me, what is the one thing that you would add to this list? And if you're serious about getting prepared for whatever life throws your way, check out this video next. I'm Jera with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.